So, Rob, did you find out the size of the footprint?
Yes, thank you.
All right, and with that, we're live. Okay, you never know when it's going to go live here. Mid-sentence, boom, we're live, just like that. Welcome.
Depends on the size of the tent.
It's 88 by 54. Yeah, that's right.
Don't let me interrupt your discussion, guys. So we are here for our monthly chat. This is the crew from the Philmont Trek Talk and Philmont Trek Talk Prep News and Info Group. We are the completely unofficial but Friends of Philmont group that talks about everything Philmont Trek related. Right now, we are in, what month are we in, guys?
May. Last I looked was May.
May. That means like 1 month before the first crews start hitting the trail, maybe less. I don't know when crews actually hit the trail, but we're 10 days in. It is potentially less than a month before the first crews hit the trail.
June
that
the
means
8th.
we're getting crunch time. We're absolutely getting down to crunch time. So this discussion, we have a list of things that we are going to talk about. But the big thing is we want this to be a participatory program. So if you're out there, you're getting ready to take a crew to Philmont, you're going to Philmont, you have any questions whatsoever, now is your chance to put those questions up to our esteemed expert panel. And
this esteemed panel, that's a...
And if they don't have an answer, maybe I'll make something up. Well, but we will either find you an answer or we will document it and get in touch with the people who know the real answer to be sure that that you have what you need to hit the trail, because our goal is obviously for everyone to have the best trek possible. So with that, hi, I'm Jeff. I'll be your tour guide this evening. I am the skipper of Sea Scout Ship 4019 in Burlington, North Carolina, and the founder of the Philmont Trek Talk Prep News and Info Group, which is sponsored by my company, Gear-Report.com, where we do lots of outdoor gear reviews and Philmont gear reviews. So you can go check that out. So that's my shameless plug for the evening. Rob would like to tell you about his scout history and his website before we move on.
I won't go through the whole history. We don't have that much time. So I'm Rob Smith. I'm with Troop and Crew 85 in O'Fallon, Illinois. And I also run a little website called highadventurescouting.com. That's enough.
All right, good. We have the ghost of Sal Porto Jr. in the bottom corner.
Yes, I have no idea why my camera's not working. I am not a techno-man, so hey, you're stuck with looking at a big S. Assistant Scoutmaster, Troop 212, Lutz, Florida. Owner, operator of Suncoast Wilderness First Aid. Teach wilderness first aid, and all the fun stuff doing that. Teaching a class tomorrow, part 2, to the U.S. Geological Survey people, which is awesome group to teach to. Next to Darryl.
Yeah.
There I am.
There you are. Darrel Tadsen.
Yeah, hey, I'm slow, but eventually I will put the appropriate screens up there.
I was too quick. I'm sorry.
While we're looking at that, maybe we can get highadventurescouting.com to load as well. Maybe we can't. I don't know. My computer's being a little obstinate this evening, but I'll try to keep up. So Darryl just talks slowly so that I have a chance to keep up. It will be good. Yeah. Or talk normal speed, whatever.
Darrel Tadsen here from St. Louis, Missouri. I don't own any business related to Philmont. I do own an engraving and awards and recognition business.
It's a great business.
Anyways, multiple treks at Philmont, multiple contingent advisors, and headed back this year with 6 crews on June 12th. So we'll be hanging out in the Welcome Center for those 2 weeks while the contingent is roaming around the backwoods. So if anybody out there happens to wander into base camp and into the Welcome Center, please say hi.
All right, pretty good intros all the way around. Again, thank you to our esteemed expert panel. And a couple of housekeeping items for folks that would like to participate in the chat. Please, so there are a couple things real quick here. Number one, we don't know you're there unless you say something. I see that we do have people watching. Our streaming service tells us that. They don't tell us what platform. They don't tell us who you are. So please leave a comment, whatever platform you're on, so we know you're there. You can let us know what crew you are, what troop you are, where you're from, favorite color. I don't know. Whatever makes you happy. You can weigh in. How about this? Let's spice things up this week. Ooh, we've never done this one before. Okay. You can even weigh in with the hashtag Team Boots, or if you're actually an experienced, skilled person in the backcountry, you can be on Team Trail Runners. So whichever you like, feel free to weigh in the comments, or don't. Whatever makes you happy. We're just here to amuse you.
Yeah, Team Share too.
Team Gear, that's right.
You know what? I felt like that was a bit more than I wanted to bite off for this one. Let's see. So the first thing I want to talk about here on our agenda, I'll thank Darrell, our recurring agenda maker, for handling the bulk of the heavy lifting on the agenda. But something I do want to talk about. What in the world? Come on, Rob. That just hurt. Okay, but at least we have Chris is out there saying hi. So thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. Yes, look at that. Team Trail Runners. All right. I'm going to try not to interrupt us every 10 seconds with that. But please, folks, go ahead and get your comments in. Get any questions you have for our panel. What I want to talk about real quick, though, let me see if I can get this queued up on the other screen. I've noticed that we have a featured post or a pinned post in the Facebook group for folks that are looking for additional people. So it's really two things. If you have openings on your crew, either for scouts or adults, or if you would like to be a free agent and join a we got some weird noise in the background there. If you'd like to join a crew that has an opening, we have a special featured or pinned post in the Facebook groups. Here's a Facebook group. Look at that. Over 7,000 members strong. Thank you, everyone who participates in that group. Without you guys, it really wouldn't be worth spending time on. In there, at the very top, you see we have Philmont 2022 Trek openings, where you can list if you have openings or if you'd like to fill an opening. As you can see, we've got a variety of different posts in here. And I went through and asked a few of those people today, hey, do you still need people? Like, this has been up for 4 weeks. Have you satisfied your need for additional people on your crew? And pretty uniformly, what I heard back was, no, we're really not getting much traction in here. So please, if you're not a part of our group, go join the group, be a part of it. If you are a part of the group, it would be really awesome. Oh, look at that. My computer can't keep up. If you are a part of the group, go into this post and what do you do here? You click on something so that you can follow it, and you'll get updates when people make comments on this post. So you'll see when anyone posts that they have an opening, or you'll see if there's any free agents. And whether I'm asking everyone to do this, even if you don't have an opening, even if you don't need to fill an opening, let's help each other by all right, where is it? It's not turn on notifications. Of course, now I can't remember what it is that you click to make that happen. Oh, I should make myself a group expert while I'm in here, though. But we're not going to do that. I don't want to distract things. Please go in and follow that post so that you'll see, and then we can use our communication network. Maybe your crew's full and you have all the people you need, but if you see something, you may know someone who could help another crew out, because we've got a few crews who are short on adults. They're short on enough youth to have more youth than adults so they can actually go on their trek. I would absolutely hate for any crews to have to cancel because they couldn't get that one more critical additional person when we have over 7,000 people in our group. We have got to know someone who would like to go to Philmont. So, because I may have found a crew that is unaware of my reputation and potentially willing to let me go on a trek with them this summer. So I may help one of those crews that is short on critical adults, but there are several more in there that need scouts and that need adults to be able to even go on the trek at all. So please go check that out and let's see if we can help them out. Okay, that was my first item. Thank you so much for your attention there. So now the next topic that I'd like to throw out to the panel to discuss is, based on where we are in the summer, what do you think the goals should be? Where should crews be in terms of their preparation? And I mean, this could be anything. I do want to talk about travel and logistics later, so let's not really talk about that part maybe. But the crew dynamic, shakedown hikes, that kind of thing. Where should crews be right now? And feel free to speak up. And
Okay, I'll go first. Here in Florida, it's starting to get hot and sweaty outside, so your crew should be done probably doing most of your training hikes, maybe some individual hiking. You should have all your key positions already filled for your crews. They should be done and gone. And so you should, I mean, you got what, 45 days, give or take, before we leave. So you should just about be in ready to go mode. Just do some personal training on your own. But as for crews, most of my crews are done with their training. I think a couple of them are doing training hikes this weekend, but all the rest of them are done. Next.
That's good.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, if you're going in June, you better be ready. Our crew and our troop is having their last shakedown next weekend, and then and that's about 30 days out from their trek, a little less. So, yeah, you better be ready. It's really paperwork at this point because there's a whole lot of paperwork for. So you want to be a Philmont advisor? Yeah, it's all paperwork. So,
yeah,
and COVID crap. Yeah, so
Yeah, those at 30 days out, the rosters need to be complete. No adds, deletes, or swaps unless you really want to pay $150 penalty fee. So, that's a target, and those who are, June 8th is the opening day. 6-8, 6-9 crews, they better be there at this point. And what everybody else has said, I think the only other thing would be at this point, continue to do your personal, exercise and so forth. Probably the biggest thing now is to figure out what color your chair is going to be. Or your trail runners.
Yeah. Okay, so let me pull up a screen.
Those that are going in August, yeah, you got a little time yet, but that's going to creep up pretty fast.
I want to drop a couple ideas here. I was I don't want to say scolded, but I will say that Scott O'Mary, who is usually here with us, I said last month that he's not with us this month. And he's like, dude, you made it sound like I died. Well, he didn't die. He just has other scouting obligations because he does way more than just participating in our Facebook group and in these discussions. Like he wrote some articles that could be useful to you. Flatlander's Guide to Altitude Sickness while backpacking at Philmont. There are some things in here that can be very useful to you that don't have to be like 6 months out. Some of the other things we'll talk about, it's better if you started your physical preparation before now. But if you've been putting it off and you haven't really hit it as hard as you probably should, now's the time to start getting your workouts in and ratcheting those up. And I'm really more than anything talking to the adults because we may remember what we used to be able to do, but if we've been sitting behind desk for decades, then you may get a rude awakening when you hit the trail and you hit altitude and all of the day-to-day wear builds up on you and you realize a few days in, like, I've made a huge mistake. you have your Arrested Development Job moment. So Scott O'Mary has written a few articles. We've got the altitude sickness one we looked at. He has, and this is one that I kind of want to, the next question I was going to ask was how to seed your crew leaders with the right ideas to help them succeed. And I thought these were a great example of something you can do is refer them to these articles that Scott wrote, Introduction to Time Management in the Philmont Backcountry. It's a 3-part series, and it really helps to kind of lay the groundwork for getting more enjoyable time to do activities in backcountry, explore the wilderness, and spend less time hiking in the blazing sun when you're going to need more water and it's hot and more uncomfortable, and to help you not miss your program activities when you get to staff camps or other program areas. And then just some general things to make your task in the backcountry a little bit easier. So you can see Introduction to Time Management in the Philmont Backcountry. You can sleep when you're dead and other management tips at your Philmont campsite, and Eat When You're Tired and other backpacking time management tips from the Philmont Trail. Those are the 3 articles from Scott, and those are on the Gear-Report.com website. So I lied when I said that was my only shameless plug. I'm going to intersperse them throughout this entire discussion. Potentially, we shall see.
You are the sponsor.
Well, I know. And I also wanted to highlight the Philmont Trek Adult Crew Advisor Physical Preparation. Please, if you haven't read this and you're an adult and you're going this summer, please read it. The most frequent thing that I hear from adults at the end of the trekking season is, I should have listened to everyone telling me I needed to be in better shape. I thought I was in good enough shape. I got out there, realized I absolutely was not. So please, 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 I'm going to suggest you go read the article because I wrote it, so I kind of like it. But you don't have to take my word for it. If you don't want to read that article, talk to some people who've been, get a realistic assessment of what your physical conditioning is. Understand that altitude is going to cut your lung capacity in half the first few days and make you tired all the time. So even if you think you're in good shape, think about if you need to do a little bit more to be sure that you're not holding up the scouts and making them miss program in the backcountry. So that is my kind of high level what I would like to, and it sounds like I'm talking to the adult advisors, but I'm saying for the physical prep, absolutely, that article is geared at them. But the other items, while it's good for the advisors to have some ideas on time management, this is really up to the crew leader and the crew how they want to implement things. Like, do they want to get up early and hit the trail early? Do they want to wait till later? So I strongly recommend that you ask your crew leader to get into that series of articles and try to understand the concepts that Scott is proposing there, because they can make a world of difference in making a trek much more pleasant, much less like work, I think. So what else do you guys have as far as thoughts on how to help the crew leader understand the scope of their role and be ready to take charge? Like by now, they should really, it isn't when they get on the trail, it's like they should be kind of running things now. So what are you doing? What should we be doing in the 1 to 3 months out for different crews to be sure the crew leaders are really equipped for their job?
Just pretty much what you said. Let the crew leader be the leader, and the adults kind of stand back and encourage the crew leader if he has questions to please ask. Don't wing it. Hey, what do I do in this kind of situation? I mean, he's your senior patrol leader, basically, for the crew. And if he's, he should be in that role already, making those decisions. When are we going to get up? When are we going to start hiking? All of those decisions.
Right.
Right.
I know.
All right, you guys aren't very verbose this evening.
How do you improve on Darrel's comments? I mean,
Yeah, really.
It doesn't take much.
Okay, so if there are any questions on that, oh my goodness. Drop 10 pounds if you need to or more. Yeah, no joke. Every pound that is on your booty is a pound that you have to carry up and down the mountains for however many days you're out there, for how many miles you cover. I am a huge gearhead. That's my profession is gear, right? So I'm all about the gear. But if I'm hitting the trail in the back country, which it looks like as of a day or two ago that I'm potentially on the short list to be on a crew. So where did I go this evening? I went and burned 200 calories on the exercise bike trying to get my legs woken up because sitting at a desk for the last year hasn't really helped them. So I am doing the crash course. And when I came off the trail last year, I hit the trail at about 197 pounds. I came off at about 194. My metabolism was jacked. I got down to 192 in the coming weeks. I am 211 pounds right now. So I am starting the crash weight loss plan as well to see if I can be ready in 2 months to hit the trail. So yeah, absolutely. Don't be too proud to objectively look at your belly and your booty and assess. Yeah, there's probably more you can lose for most of us.
The weight is what you can. The weight is what you can work on and exercise with. You're not going to be growing 3 inches. So
yeah.
See, you shouldn't have stopped exercising from last year, Jeff. I mean,
you're right. I
yeah.
shouldn't have. Yep.
I dropped 10 pounds last year on the trek, so I don't know how that happened because we ate the whole time. So, but
yeah, it's amazing.
A side comment, and not to be too negative on this, I got a call from a friend of mine who lives in Cimarron, and when he drove in today, he's working there. He could not see Window Rock from the highway because of the smoke.
wow.
Yeah.
He said, Darryl, bring your respirator. So, that's going to cut down, the oxygen level and so forth, the way you breathe. I mean, the more that air is contaminated, it's only going to hurt everybody.
All right. Well, it looks like we are on the fire topic now. So let's.
I didn't really want to take it there. But...
Well, but I mean, we have a specific question that I don't know the answer to. Maybe one of you guys knows the answer. But then also, the next item on the agenda was to talk about recent Philmont announcements, which I'm sure that what we know about the fire, you guys can share. I honestly haven't been watching the last couple days, so I have old information, but I'm sure you guys have better information.
Okay, the last update I got was the fire on Philmont is contained, not necessarily out, still some hot spots, but they're very comfortable with it. Approximately 3,000 acres, right down on the southern border. And this question about line camp and Rayado, is very timely. From past experience being there during fires, after fires, etc. From what I've heard down in that deep South country along the Rayado River, I would expect some rerouting of those treks. The cabin at Zastro was destroyed by the fire. That's not a camping or a camp for hikers, but line camp is a little further south up on the hill. I'm sure that area, has been burned. Part of their thinking is going to be, how far do we have to hike crews through a burned area. Do we camp them in a burned area? They don't really want to do that. You don't want to camp in ashes. And the thing that I always forgot about was the water source. I mean, that can be contaminated with ash and silt, and that's a concern that logistics is going to look at and say, where are we taking these crews and where can they get water? Line camp, to specifically answer that question, I would say if you're going to line camp, you probably got about an 80% chance of being rerouted. To where? I'm not exactly sure, but probably not line camp. You're probably going to be more down into the valley along the Rialto River, and maybe a little bit up on the north side of the canyon. Abreu is still functioning. That down in there, Rialto River is, from what I've heard, is still good, but I'm sure logistics is scrambling like crazy to put this together. But and this is all my personal opinion and past experience. I'm not speaking for Philmont in any capacity. They do an amazing job, with this, and they're going to keep everybody safe and make the best program possible. Ask everybody's indulgence to, this is what it is. Suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah.
Along those same lines, do you think that they'll make game time decisions on some of those treks that go into that south area, like Olympia and Zastro and those areas?
Say that again, Rob.
I'm just curious if you think they'll make a game time decision for those treks going into that area in the south, like Zastro and Olympia Camp and those areas that can't be used.
I think they'll have it ready to go by June the 8th when the first crews show up. The fire, we got 3.5 weeks.
Right.
They should have it pretty well lined out by then. The other thing is whatever it is, this Hermit's Peak fire. I mean, that's pushing north at a rapid rate. It's over 200,000 acres. Yeah. It's coming up, as far as Philmont is concerned, it's coming up to the west. They're talking about Taos and Angel Fire, being in the path.
Wow. And they've had lots of high wind days out there lately. So let's keep our fingers crossed for the ranch, for all the ranchers and people living in the area, for the crews coming in, for the staff, for everyone, right?
And I think back to your comment or question, Rob. I think you should know it won't be a game day, when you show up at Philmont, and it may be when you show up you'll find out what the change is, but I think they will have them pretty well predetermined.
I've been asked that question by our crew, and that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But I thought I'd put it out in the public sphere here. So
yeah, a little bit of a warning. I doubt this is going to be necessary, but our group sponsor here, Gear-Report.com, has made an offer to Philmont Scout Ranch that we've got a bunch of really big heavy-duty military tents, like 18 by 25 foot command tents, and I have said, hey, if they're going to be useful to you, housing firefighters, housing staff, like if something burned in the backcountry and you need a temporary shelter to put up for a year or two, tell me how many you need and I'll send them to you. So these are big, heavy-duty tents. If they do say yes, they would like them, then expect to see a post soliciting funds to cover shipping, because these are big, heavy. They go on a pallet. It'll cost a couple $100 to ship each one to get them out there. But if it's going to be useful to the ranch, they can. I mean, I got a dozen of them that I've made available to them.
Cool.
If they would like them. So please be prepared if it comes to that, to kick in a little, just a little bit. We got 7,000 members. If everyone kicks in 20 cents, then we can send all of them out there and have no issues with that whatsoever. Let's see. Sal sent a note that he is having internet issues and was going to drop and see if he could get that sorted. So he may or may not be back. Let's see. Other things on the agenda. I wanted to toss something else out there. We talked about how to prep a crew leader. I would like just a really quick reminder discussion for adults that are going about what is the role of the adult advisor in the backcountry. So I'll just say real quick, it's not to lead the crew. So what else would you guys say?
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the scenery and watch your kids grow and lead.
Here you go.
Yeah, I think the thing that we did last summer is made sure to kind of focus them at the end of each day on, all right, what's coming up? What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? What time do you want to get up? And really lead them in that direction, because, teenagers don't always think far ahead. So after, 3 or 4 days of that, they're doing it on their own.
Yeah.
And, they always need a little bit of guidance. And I'm not one of those, leaders that let our crew hike 10 miles out of the way, because I don't want to hike 10 miles back. I'm being kind of selfish. Yeah. So I have a slight disagreement with advisors that go that direction. Hey, your crew, you do what you want to do, but I'll let it go for half a mile, and say, hey, let's take a look at the map. Where are we at?
Well, and the terrain too. I mean, if it's a mile or two out of your way and it's flat, but coming back, you got to climb another 500 feet or 1,000 feet. I'm waving, hey guys, Actually, a little side story. Many years ago, we were at a T intersection, and of course, the crew is shuffling the map and turning it every which way and upside down, backwards, and whatever. And they were convinced, and they were going to go to the left. And I just said, are you sure? Because personally, I had been there before, and the left was not the way to go. About 3/4 of a mile, you'd be back at the mine at Cyphers, or no. What's the one up north? Ewell's Park. What's the one up north? It's not Cyphers.
Aztec.
Yeah, the Aztec mine. Anyways, and my advisors who had been there before, they start drifting over to the right, the way we should be going. And they start backing down that trail. One of them even is holding his hiking stick, pointing like this. They are absolutely convinced the left is the way to go. And I said, okay, let's go. I walked about 20 feet, didn't even break stride, unbuckled my backpack, the belt, so forth, and just dropped it in the trail and kept walking.
That's good.
Perfect.
And they, and the other adults with me in the back are looking at me, and they finally, oh yeah. We went about a quarter, third, maybe a half mile, and one of the scouts turned around and said, "Hey, Mr. Tadsen, the dividers, where's your pack?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of thinking this was a side hike, and we're going to be coming back this way. I didn't feel I needed to carry it both ways." Of course, you can only do that once. After that, they're looking at you every time. But
So you did what a famous St. Louisan said one time: when you come to a T in the road, you take it.
Exactly.
I guess it's a fine road, but T in the road.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one, and I think I see one of those crew members every once in a while, and he still comments about that.
Yeah. Well, that's good, and so I think that the role. Really, I love what you said, Rob, about kind of seeding them with the idea of what kind of things they need to be thinking about for the current day, for the next day or two in the future, so that they can kind of develop the habit of being on top of their task as crew leaders. And then I would also throw out there that we're really kind of the adults are the safety check for the scouts to be sure that they're not. Number one, we don't want a trek to devolve into Lord of the Flies. As entertaining as that might be, there is so much paperwork associated with that that it's really best if we don't allow that to happen. All right, we head that off at the pass. So crew dynamics, usually about day 7 when people are super tired from a week of going up and down mountains and they smell bad and they're getting sick of each other. That's when we may need to nudge things in in the direction of conflict resolution instead of escalation. And we need to keep an eye on they made fun of me on the first trek I was on as an advisor because we got close to a cliff. I think it was going up to Baldy from Miranda. We go past the Black Horse Mine, and somewhere up there at one of the old mine camps, there's a nice little overlook, and we stopped there, and some of the scouts are playing around. They're getting up close to the edge. I was like, get back here. And they're like, what? The crew leader's like, well, we're fine. I said, I'm the one who's going to have to do the paperwork. 10 feet back.
Yeah.
Play all you want. 10 feet from the edge. 10 feet back further. Yeah.
Bottom line, health and safety. I mean, that is your role.
Yeah.
We always joke with our boys in our troop that they'll ask us something and say, well, you can do that. We only have to bring 80% of you home to be in compliance. And they just laugh and we're like, we're not kidding. And they're like, what? No, it's all right. We'll
over 60s passing.
That's right. Depends on where you're at, though. What school.
And the other thing, set an example. I mean, the 3 or 4 adults that you have, start cleaning up, start, organizing things, not verbally, but begin to set an example. Getting up in the morning, getting things packed up, getting them ready to go. Cleaning your dishes. Not waiting around for the frivolity to end. We got a job to do, and pretty soon the girls, whatever the crew will start seeing. Hey, how come these 40, 50-year-old guys are always ready to go, and we're scrambling, trying to get the tents packed up and everything else. Lead by example. Start doing things.
All right, absolutely.
One thing that's not sort of related to that, but we and you could probably a lot of troops do this, and the new crew leaders and crew advisors haven't thought of it. Is I kind of came in 2 Saturdays ago to our crew going this year, and I just brought my backpack and everything that was in there last year, and I laid it out on the table and explained, all right, this is what I took. This is all I took. I didn't need to take any more. This is what I wouldn't take the second time. And I actually brought in a scale and showed them how much the Nalgene bottles weigh as opposed to what I used with the Smart Water bottles. And it was amazing. I could have 3 Smart Water bottles and a Gatorade bottle for the same as a Nalgene bottle. So, whether they take that or not, that's up to them. I told them, I said, I'm not carrying your pack. I'm not going with you this year. You've got your own crew leaders or your advisors, so do what you want. But I think that was an eye-opening experience for them to say, all right, do we really need 8 pairs of socks and 17 pair of underwear? And no, this is all you need. You got it. So I don't know whether they're going to take my advice or not, but that's, again, I'm not carrying their pack.
I love the comment back out on the Facebook page. Somebody was commenting, they called it the Smart Water bottle. What's smart about it? Does it tell you when to drink? And I'm going like, I hope whoever was asking the question was tongue in cheek.
Well, I'll admit, when I first heard of it, I didn't realize I don't buy bougie water, so I didn't know what people were talking about either. But I first heard it when I was thinking about doing an Appalachian Trail hike and was in some of those groups, and that's what all those people were using at the time. I think many have moved on to even lighter, like soft roll-up type bottles, that kind of thing.
The platypus type and so forth.
That was my extra that I took that I never got, but it's only, like an ounce or something like that. So those are pretty light, but they don't fit as well in my backpack. So that's why.
And the other thing that I've done is I stop the crew. Hey, I got a hot spot. Well, maybe I don't, but I do, stop the crew and, start fiddling with my boot or whatever, because I'm looking ahead and I see little Johnny kind of limping up at front. And, pretty soon half of the crew's got their shoes off and they're readjusting the socks because they don't want to be the bad guy to call halt. Start doing some of those things.
Interesting.
Even showing them how to take a bandana bath, over in the woods, and you got a container of water and you wipe yourself down, start doing that stuff, and they'll maybe that old guy knows something.
Along those same lines is it took several days to convince even my own son, which he wouldn't listen to me anyway because I'm old and stupid, but he didn't understand when he was kind of in the lead because they switched off every day, that you could actually get to your destination quicker by taking breaks every so often, every 30 minutes, every hour or whatever. You don't have to take your pack off, just take a break. Even if you need to take 20 minutes to sit in the chair, you're going to be more energized after, or not sit in your chair. I'll sit in my own chair. So, but you'll be more energized and you'll have more in it to go the rest of the way or to go another 30 minutes to an hour. And that seemed to be a hard concept for a focus-oriented crew to say, I want to get from point A to point B so we can do this, that, or the other, or set up camp. And it took several days. I'm not sure they completely understood it even by the end of the trek, but we did take those breaks, mainly partly because I wanted to take them. And I wanted the crew to be fresh by the time they got along the trail and not dread actually being on the trail, because that's a tough thing to be out there.
It can be brutal, and I think this year with the dryness, it's going to be even more brutal.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's look at some more questions I've got prepared here. From Darrell's agenda, recent Philmont announcements. Do you have any of those in mind that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I didn't get a return email from Philip yet, but anyways, some of the things that came out, I believe May 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. All of the menus were posted finally online, and they got their allergy identifier, if I can use that term, working, so that if you indicate, a particular individual has a peanut allergy, it will highlight the various menu items that you would be in conflict with. That way you can figure out what your alternatives to bring are. And in fact, if I heard them say correctly, when you're all done with doing that, it would actually print out for you a shipping label, so that when you you arrive at logistics with your bag of alternative food, you can slap this label on it, and it'll the crew number, day 3, what commissary it's going to, and so forth.
Huh.
So I haven't had a chance to work with it or anything, but they say it's out there and working. I think the one that most everybody is most interested in is going to be COVID. Yeah.
Only in New Mexico.
Yeah. Everybody will be required to show proof of vaccination, fully vaccinated.
And boosted.
Boosters would be really, really nice, but they're not going to be required. If you are not vaccinated, they need a negative test within 3 to 5 days, I think it is, before arrival.
So the way you're understanding that vaccinated is just vaccinated, not any other booster or anything like that.
Right.
Okay.
The two dose,
Or the one dose
well,
Johnson
yeah,
Johnson.
whatever, and be able to either show your card or a very good cell phone photo of it that they can, read it and so forth. If you're not fully vaccinated, Moderna or Pfizer or whatever, then they're going to want a negative test within 3 to 5 days from arrival. Masking will be required for any indoor activity, including standing in line in the dining hall. Once I'm in the dining hall and I'm eating. Well, you're going to spend 20 minutes standing in line. Once you get your food, move to your table, obviously you take it off. But logistics, when the advisor and the crew leader goes in for trip planning, mask is going to be required. Philmont is not going to be providing, so you need to bring one. I haven't heard whether or not gaiters or bandanas will be allowed. Yeah, one like that from last year. But I would bring the blue and white, or N95 mask. Don't try to push the issue with a gaiter and a neck wrap or whatever. Just, it's a small inconvenience for a great experience.
Yeah, they didn't let us use the gaiters last year, I know.
Yeah.
Even though that's probably the only place we couldn't use them was at Philmont. Everywhere else was okay.
Right.
So New Mexico isn't a country in its own that has its own.
Well, I'll mention something about that too. And also for the advisors meeting, which is going to be in the Hardesty Casa or whatever it is, that'll be an indoor meeting. So, they're going to need a mask for that. Philmont is governed by a half a dozen organizations. The state of New Mexico, CDC, the Colfax County, and the National Camping Certification, so forth. So, they gotta line up against 4 or 5 different sets of requirements, and then a little bit of their own, and say, what's common sense for us, and what can we do to ensure, that people from all 50 states. I don't know if any international are coming this year. No international came last year, but coming from all over the country, different requirements. And I just kind of come down on the side that says, I'm going to Philmont. These are their rules, guidelines, whatever. Follow them. First, I signed up for BSA as a member, and therefore I subscribe to YPT. This is what you did. Do you go to other camps, other council camps, and say, well, we don't want to do this or that over there? You're coming on their property, and I think their requests are reasonable.
Okay.
Off my soapbox.
I don't agree with you, but we can move on. All right. Yeah, I think it's all ridiculous, but whatever. I agree with the part that it's their ranch, their rules, and to the extent that they require it, and like if I find myself out there and I have to be inside for something, I'll probably try to comply and play nice as much as possible, even though I think it's all, if you look at I don't want to get into this. I'll just say that I have a much more extensive background in air filtration and in this type of thing than most people, and it's all a big joke. So from a science standpoint, it's useless. But if they want to play that game and people want to play along with it, then that's up to them. But I don't think that it's helping anyone. So from a science standpoint. So you also had check-in payments on your list.
Well, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, 30 days out from arrival, make sure all your bills are paid so you don't incur that $150 penalty fee or anything like that. That was that comment. Just make sure you get your payments in on time. Um, you know, the interesting one is even if you swap a person, Billy can't go, but you replace him with Johnny or Mary, they're gonna charge you. Personally, I can see the add and deletes because they got to buy food ahead of time and get prepared and tentage and so forth. I remember years back talking to the registrar. Over the course of the summer, they'd have 400 or 500 people show up that they had no idea were coming. Now, how do you handle that?
Seems like you could figure out a way to add or swap out people if need be. Like that should be an easy.
Yeah,
that should be a charge. I mean, that seems a little. And I'm sure that you could work something out with Philmont. Just call them. I mean,
Yeah, but when they
add somebody, that's something different. That's
and even taking it away, okay, that's not quite as bad as adding, but
right.
They're buying food ahead of time and preparing them, and tentage and assigning tents and base camp and all of this logistic stuff,
Right.
and on any given day you got 40 to 45 crews, and if 10 of them bring one more person, you got 10, 15 people.
Yep.
And, it doesn't sound like a lot but when you're trying to manage 2 people per tent and there's only a finite number in base camp, it becomes rough.
Not just 2 people per tent, but then you throw in the different age requirements for YPT, where some of those tents that in decades and decades past would have been at full capacity, now they have single occupancy because of ages. So you said within 30 days. What's the deadline for when someone, the latest someone can add an additional scout? Because we got a question here. It was he said, I say he, I don't know who it was. We can do an extra scout, right? And then followed up with, just had a scout walk up to me at our last meeting.
Oh my.
Well, but I don't know when they're going. If it's someone who's going in a month, then I think that's probably a different scenario than someone whose crew leaves in 2.5 months, right?
Right. It's like my crew is 6/13. So on 5/13, that's my bogey. That's my target. After that, after 30 days from your arrival, expedition number, that's the number. Aside from the finances, adding a person at this point, even 60 days out, how's that going to affect crew dynamics and getting ready and exercise and whatever. Those are some issues I think so this person is saying craziness July 20th, June 20th. That's when financially you have to fill in your roster.
I don't know how you would get ready that quickly if you're for that person that.
There are people I know who could do it. They may be an athlete and already in good shape, and by and large, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I have had a little bit of trouble wrapping my head around, is the idea that that the bulk of people who go on treks at Philmont may not have really backpacked before. And to me, we backpacked a lot in my troop as a scout, and then, culminated that with going to Philmont. And then, but then I see it as an adult. The troop my son was in, where when he and I went in 2017, that troop, man, it was pulling teeth to get them to backpack at all. And it was because they were not good at it. So they would go once a year, whether they liked it or not, and they would have a terrible experience, and then no one wanted to go. It took a year for the memory to fade enough that they were willing to even try backpacking again.
Oh,
So then, we had to kind of break that cycle and do some education and get them out there to have some positive experiences so they would actually try it a little bit more. But I think that's what I hear is that's more common than not, is that people show up with incredibly low backpacking experience levels.
So anyways, those are some of the last ones. Oh, the other thing was med forms. Scan them, upload them as soon as you can. The Health Lodge wants to see them. And from what I'm hearing from Nate Lay, the medical director, height, weight, and blood pressure specifically for the adults is going to be very, very specific. Their guideline is going to be real tight. They might be a little flexible with the youth, but the adults, they're coming down hard on that. And I would suspect that an immediate turnaround headed home is not in your budget.
And I would say if you have questions, and we had one of our adult crew members that had some real concerns, and he actually contacted the medical director and said, all right, here's my situation, here's where I'm at. And so they came in, specific situation. He talked to him and figured something out. And I said, well, print that email out take it with you and say, this is what I was told. So if I wouldn't say just don't show up and expect things will magically happen. Get with them ahead of time and so they're aware of things. So.
Yep, they're much better able to deal with it if you bring it up ahead of time, because at the time during medical recheck, it just bogs the process down and creates all kinds of havoc. And if nothing else, frustration and anxiety on the person affected. I'm going to have to go home. What's going on? I mean, Philmont is going to do everything they can to put you on the trail. They know what you've spent in dollars and cents, exercise, and so forth. It's not their mission in life to send you home. But, and I think I mentioned this before, at least to one of my groups, where we are right now with litigation on BSA, they are leaning, they're way over on playing it safe and the liability issues.
Yeah. I was really, and maybe this sounds a little callous, but I'm pretty direct with, individuals that I think may be over the height, weight, BMI index, and say, hey, here are the requirements. I don't know where you're at, but I think you're probably pretty close. You need to make sure you're within these guidelines. And I've told a couple people that several times. Say, all right, where you at? How you doing? And do that about every month and kind of keep them on track. And I don't know any other way to do it other than I don't want them to get out there and say, well, why wasn't I able to go? I wasn't told. Well, yeah, you were told every month. Absolutely. And I want to make sure that you're able to go. That's a lot of money and a lot of time more than anything. The money can always be made. It's the time that you spend getting ready and all the hundreds of miles that you walk and exercise and whatever. So
pretty big emotional investment too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
plus, when you're going as a crew, you really have to keep in mind that your crew's counting on you.
Mhm.
So to show up unprepared and get sent home, you could wreck the whole experience for everyone. So
Yep.
be sure you are ready. And good news to our commenter that their last minute walk up is an outstanding candidate to go to Philmont. It looks like so.
But crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, they're what 5.5 weeks out.
Yeah.
Personally, I could have been ready at 17. I'd have been ready in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Today, give me about 5 days notice to work on airfare to get a flight booked. So it seriously, I think it really depends on the individual's preparation level and then how they're going to integrate with the crew.
Right.
That is probably as important, if not more important, and what the role is. If it's a youth that is pretty seasoned, then maybe they won't be a burden. But if they're going to come in and disrupt things, then consider that as well. And on the adult side, we had last year that I actually, as a free agent, went with a troop about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from me, that had some openings fairly late in the game from adults that were not tracking towards meeting the height, weight, BMI standards. And I replaced one. And I got there and went on one hike with them, one prep hike, and pulled the lead advisor aside and said, I'm sure these are great people, but that one adult ain't going to make it. I'm telling you, like, no chance. Will not make it. This is going to be miserable for everyone if you let that person go. And it took a couple weeks of negotiating and eventually going, well, yep, okay, you're out. But I would rather be the bad guy. And I told him, dude, I'll take the heat. I get this is your troop. This is your family. You've known these people for years. Tell them I said not to let them go. I don't care. I'll be the bad guy now because it will save them from an even worse, miserable experience out on the trail. So consider, I'm not saying don't respect anyone's feelings. Don't try to be nice about it. I'm not saying that at all. But don't beat around the bush and don't sit back and go, well, I don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so I just won't say anything.
Yeah. But you got to be honest.
Get out in the open.
Mhm.
Yeah, get it out in the open. Give them a chance and plenty of time to work on it. And if they don't do what they need to, that's on them. That's not on you. You don't have to feel bad about it. But if you let them get out on the trail and it causes an issue that wrecks things for everyone, that's on you.
Right.
My opinion, of course. Okay, we have just crossed an hour. So I'm going to say I'd hope to wrap up in an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and throw out last call. It is time. If you have any more questions, comments, if you would like to, I don't know, ask Darryl any questions, like how many times has he been on a Philmont Trek? Now is your chance to do that. I'm not suggesting that question because he is very modest and he doesn't really want to address that directly, I think.
How much
tell you
hurt
what,
have you gone through in your lifetime?
this many is not enough to cover. Yeah, I'll tell you that much. So anyhow, Rob, did you say your troop's going, you're not going?
Yes, my troop is going. Actually, we had two crews going in 2020. We split up the crews. So our younger crew went to Z base last year to get ready, and then our older guys that were aging out went last year. So this is the crew from the year before, and we've got a couple new guys. We've almost got a full crew, so it's good. So, and no, I'm not going. I've said several times that Mrs. Smith told me I had to take at least a year off of high adventure trips because of 8 years straight or whatever going somewhere. So I've been married over 25 years, so I listen to her. She knows what she says.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Darryl already said he'll be out there in the Welcome Center. I can tell you that it's true. He'll be there. I know last year when my crew was late checking in, like we weren't there when the camping gateway time that we had submitted said we would be there, and I was sitting at the St. James eating a bison burger, and I got a text, "Hey, where are you guys?" So yeah, they keep track of that in the Welcome Center. They do
But
try to. I can't imagine what you guys do when just by chance, like 8 or 10 crews just happen to pull in all at the same time. So please
it gets a
try to
little
keep up
hectic.
with your schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just because I had your phone number and I know you weren't going to be that you weren't there at the time and so forth, I had to exercise a little bit of cruelty.
Right, right. Yeah. And that's something else that I'll mention. Especially, man, especially with all the stuff going on with the fires in the community. Um, that community out there really needs some support. They always need it. Like, but man, I was talking to one of my kids today in the car that so I went in 17, and then there was a fire in 18, and then they hiked in 19, and then COVID shut it down in 20, and then we hiked again in 21. Now we're 22. It's been an on again, off again thing. In the decades prior, a lot of those small businesses are in and around the Cimarron area struggled to stay afloat when there were treks every year. Now that it's been every other year, and geez, now threatened by fires again this year, uh, please. The one regret I have from the trek last year is we did stop. I actually had them drop me at Hiker's Coffee on the way in. I needed to talk to Melissa about something, so I just had them pull up in front and let me jump out. And then they went to St. James for our reservation. Then I hiked over to meet them. But we ate on the way in, and my goal was to be sure that we spent some money in town because we had to eat anyway,
Yep.
right? So let's go ahead and do it and help support those businesses in town. On the way out after the trek, one of the adults suggested, "Oh, let's go a little bit further north and eat somewhere along the highway." And I regret not pushing harder and saying, seriously, I get it. The timing isn't perfect, but I'm telling you, these local businesses need our support so much more than the ones up along the interstate where it's busy and they got people coming through all the time. Could we please just, I know it's an hour earlier than you want to eat, but can we please do that? I didn't push as hard for that as I wish I would have.
I would say it's, again, from experience and talking with the locals, if you will, the summer traffic that goes through Philmont, beginning when the staff is arriving in the next week or two until they leave, they expect, and I conservatively, they probably are looking at 70 to 75% of their annual income in those 10
Yeah.
weeks.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was devastating with the fire, and then back one year, and then COVID. It hurt a lot of people out there.
I can't imagine. Seriously, I really can't imagine what these businesses are going through. I mean, hey, I'm a small business owner. I feel for them
Yep.
and trying to survive through all this. So I will. All right, let me go. Do you recommend reservations at the St. James? Absolutely.
Yep.
You can always stop by on your way through and ask if they can accommodate you, but it is going to be way better for everyone involved if you have a reservation.
And
So I would say if for whatever reason you didn't make the reservation and you want to ask them, hey, it can't hurt, right? But way better if you make a reservation.
the other thing last year, and we're still seeing it around the country, they're not getting the help they need. A lot of the local businesses last year, they kind of rotated an informal agreement, but a lot of them, were not open on Monday and Tuesday. They just couldn't get the staff. and
Yeah.
large groups of 8 or 10 or 12 going to the St. James. I mean, you know the restaurant situation in your own community.
Sure.
A big group takes a lot of care, if you will, the waitress, waiter, and
Yeah.
they use the table. So be cognizant of that, and yes, make a reservation. Call them and tell them what you're doing. You know, and be
Yeah.
timely, be on time. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And I do recommend the St. James. It's a neat place. It's
Yep.
like part museum, part hotel, part restaurant. It's really neat. And there, within walking distance, there are a number of shops. You can get ice cream. You can, we actually had some adults and even some youth doing some shopping. But another shameless plug for Gear-Report.com, we have got an article, Philmont, What to Do in Cimarron, New Mexico,
mhm.
that I've already reached out to our contacts, the head of the Chamber of Commerce and a couple others, to get updates on this for this year.
Right.
It's about time that we go through and make our updates. We have links to websites, social media, and Google Maps for lodging, for restaurants. To the extent that we have our information, we'll put in day of the week, an hour if they do that rotating schedule again. But certainly go check on their websites, on their social media, to see when they're available, and call the contact numbers that you see listed here. This is actually a fair amount of work to create this and to keep it up to date, and a number of people contribute to this. But I am happy to put that work in, because this community is hanging by a thread, I think, on a good year, and has suffered as Philmont has suffered. So if we want them to be around to support the ranch, we need to support them when we're in town. So please, if your crew has a way to do that.
And visit the Welcome Center, even though you're not checking in or checking out, they do have copies of the various menus, phone numbers of the places in town
Yeah.
that you can call and make a reservation. I know the pizza place in town will deliver as long as the order, I think, was over $20 or $25, which really isn't hard to do. But the visit the Welcome Center if you find yourself saying, hey, what's going on, and they typically have the menus and pricing and so forth.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. So someone who checks in on the weekly broadcast that we do on Gear Report wasn't watching when we talked about the big tent. So G23, I've already offered to donate a bunch of those big military tents to Philmont Scout Ranch if it's going to help in their fire recovery or firefighting efforts, or getting ready for the summer scout trekking season. But thank you for mentioning, you call them big tents, I call them portable castles. So yeah, always good to bring attention to those. So I would like to say, let's see, are there any last comments among our panelists before we wrap things up here?
I'll make just again a plea for the Welcome Center. We're open till 10 o'clock in the evening. If you are going to be late, please let us know. Somehow, some way, call Philmont. They'll transfer the call. They can handle. We can handle after-hour arrivals, but we start looking at 2, 3 in the afternoon. Who's in camp, who's not in camp. Things like that. So, please stick to your itinerary if you can, and if you have a significant change, we know things happen. Please let us know. Hey, we're going to be 3 hours late, 4 hours late, or something. Half hour, 20 minutes. Yeah, that's okay.
All right. With that, I think we're going to go ahead and shut things down. So thank you to our esteemed panelists. It is always a pleasure.
Well, did Rob have any last comments? Rob?
No, believe it or not,
You're speechless.
I'm not as fluent in Cimarron stuff as I am Philmont, so I just wanted to hear. I like to hear all this stuff. So yeah.
Anything Philmont related coming up on highadventurescouting.com?
If you've got high adventure trips, throw them out there on Facebook. I like to feature troops going on high adventure stuff. Doesn't have to be Philmont or Northern Tier. Could be anywhere. And I do track just about every troop in the country and crew, and it's nice to see other ideas and other things people are doing. So that's
Nice.
That's about it. So
Yeah, good to know. And that is high adventure stuff that is not. I mean, you can cover the main BSA high adventure bases, but other things is more your focus, right?
yeah,
Other opportunities outside of the main.
yeah. Most like I said, most people know about all the big high adventure, the big four.
Yep.
But you don't know about all the stuff, 30 plus high adventure bases that, maybe a better option, maybe fit within a different budget. And we try to do one big and one small every year. Usually the smaller ones for the younger guys. We only have guys in our troop, and that gives them kind of a taste of things. So, yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All
Probably
right.
won't have any podcasts for all these high adventure bases till the fall because they're all busy. So I might do some product reviews. I've got some pillows I need to review here. So we'll see.
I saw that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, looking forward to those. Always good to have a nice pillow in the backcountry. Thanks, Chad Cope. It's funny whenever Chad makes comments because he lives, I don't know, somewhere within a few minutes of my house here. And he brought some scouts out with my Sea Scout ship a year and a half ago for a sailing weekend. So always nice to see people you recognize in these national, international online things. So anyhow, thanks again. Be sure to check out Philmont Trek Talk prep news and info, the group on Facebook. We've got the link in the description of this video. If you haven't given us a thumbs up yet, seriously, you've been here an hour and 17 minutes and you haven't given us a thumbs up yet? Come on, make it happen. Or please. How about that? I'll say please. We have people saying thank you, so I'll say please. Yes, sailing was amazing. I think we're going to go tomorrow, Chad. If you want to go, let me know. I'm going to play
the last
hokey
comment
and
out
take
there,
one of the out.
Chad on budgets, send me a PM.
Yeah, if you don't know Darryl, I will hook you up with Darryl. And he's done a couple of those crew budgets over the years, a couple dozen or more. So anyhow, thanks everyone for being here. We do this the second Tuesday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on whatever channel you're watching it on. I think we're on 7 different streams simultaneously right now. So wherever you are, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment so we knew you were there, and then join us in the group. Look for a discussion thread before the next one if you have any questions you want to proceed with, and we'll have those to get started. Until next time, I think we're going to shut it down. Is anyone not ready?